If you could hold immortality in your hand, would you dare to drink it, even if it shimmered with the chill of death? Imagine a queen so desperate to defy time that she swallowed molten gold, her veins sparkling with the metal that would one day kill her. Her beauty became legend, her secret a curse. Centuries later, a single drop of her forbidden elixir resurfaces, and those who seek its promise vanish into madness and ruin. This is not just a story of a queen. It is a warning from history itself, echoing through the bones of the dead and the greed of the living. The line between miracle and nightmare is thinner than gold leaf, and those who chase eternal youth may find only eternal torment. She was known as the most beautiful woman in her kingdom, a ruler whose skin glowed with an unnatural radiance and whose eyes sparkled with the promise of secrets. But behind the gilded doors of her palace, Queen Isabella's beauty was not born of nature or fortune. It was forged in the fires of alchemical obsession, and every courtier who dared whisper about her eternal youth did so with a shudder. For Isabella drank gold, real molten gold, believing it would grant her immortality. The story begins not with her rise to power, but with the night her most trusted physician found her writhing on the marble floor, her lips blistered and her breath reeking of metal. Gold in the 16th century was more than a symbol of wealth. Alchemists across Europe believed it held the secret to eternal life. The fabled aqua regia, a mixture of acids that could dissolve gold, was whispered about in candlelit laboratories. But Isabella took it further. She demanded her alchemists create a drinkable elixir, one that would infuse her very blood with the essence of gold. They complied, fearing her wrath more than the laws of nature. They mixed gold filings into honeyed wine. They distilled gold leaf into tinctures, and each night, Isabella drank them down with trembling hands. The transformation was gradual, but undeniable. Her hair grew thicker, her skin retained its youthful tautness, and her voice never lost its melodic lilt. Foreign ambassadors marveled at her beauty, and rumors spread that she had made a pact with the devil. But her closest servants saw the truth. They watched as her teeth began to yellow and crumble, as her moods darkened into fits of rage and despair. She became paranoid, convinced that everyone around her plotted to steal her secret. The palace became a prison, its halls echoing with the clatter of locked doors and the soft sobs of maids who had seen too much. Isabella's obsession with gold was not unique. Throughout history, rulers and nobles sought forbidden ways to cheat death. In ancient China, emperors consumed mercury, believing it would grant them immortality. In Europe, the philosopher's stone was said to turn base metals into gold and grant eternal life. But Isabella's story is different because she succeeded at least for a while. Her beauty became a curse, drawing suitors and enemies alike. She trusted no one, and as her health began to fail, she doubled her doses. The gold that once gave her life now poisoned her from within. On the night of her death, a storm raged outside the palace. Lightning illuminated the twisted gargoyles that guarded her chambers. Isabella, now gaunt and skeletal, demanded her final dose. Her physician hands shaking brought her the golden elixir. She drank it in one gulp, her eyes wild with fear and longing. Moments later, she convulsed her veins, turning black as the gold coursed through her body. She died screaming her last words, a curse upon those who would seek her secret. But the story does not end there. After her death, her chambers were sealed, and the recipe for her elixir was hidden away. Centuries later, historians uncovered her journals, filled with desperate scrawls and alchemical symbols. They found traces of gold in her bones, proof of her obsession. Today, scientists know that gold is inert and cannot be absorbed by the body in large amounts. Ingesting it leads to slow, agonizing poisoning, organ failure, madness, and death. Isabella's fate became a warning, a dark tale whispered in the halls of power. After Isabella's death, the palace did not return to peace. The servants who had witnessed her final moments were silenced. Some vanished without a trace. Others found themselves locked away in distant monasteries. Whispers of the queen's golden obsession spread through the city like a plague. The common folk spoke of her as a cautionary ghost, a woman whose beauty had become a weapon turned inward. Yet behind the walls, the court was gripped by a different fear, the fear that her secret might still be uncovered, or worse, repeated. The royal physicians, terrified of being implicated, attempted to destroy every trace of Isabella's experiments. They burned her journals, shattered the delicate glassware, stained with gold residue, and buried the remaining vials deep beneath the palace gardens. But knowledge once tasted is not so easily erased. One young apprentice, drawn by curiosity and the promise of forbidden wisdom, salvaged a single page from the flames. On it, Isabella had scrawled a chilling observation: "Gold does not grant life, but it clings to death. It preserves the body, but not the soul." That single page became the seed of a new legend. Over the next century, alchemists and charlatans across Europe claimed to possess the lost elixir of Queen Isabella. Some sold tinctures laced with gold dust to desperate nobles. Others promised eternal youth in exchange for fortunes. The wealthy and the powerful, terrified of aging, became easy prey. But the results were always the same: slow, creeping illness, madness, and death. The symptoms were unmistakable: jaundiced skin, trembling hands, and a metallic taste that never faded. Some victims were found with their veins lined in gold, their bodies preserved, but their minds shattered. Meanwhile, the palace itself became a place of dread. Gardeners unearthed strange, twisted roots where the vials had been buried. The air in Isabella's old chambers grew heavy, and those who entered reported nightmares of drowning in molten gold. The new king ordered the rooms sealed, but curiosity proved stronger than caution. In the decades that followed, scholars and treasure hunters broke into the forbidden wing, searching for the queen's lost secrets. Few returned unchanged. Some claimed to hear Isabella's voice, whispering from the shadows, promising beauty and power in exchange for loyalty. As the centuries passed, Isabella's story took on new forms. In the Age of Enlightenment, scientists examined her remains, using the latest methods to analyze the traces of gold in her bones. They discovered something horrifying. The metal had accumulated in her organs, causing them to harden and fail. The process, now known as chrysiasis, was rare but unmistakable, a warning etched into her very flesh. Medical texts began to warn against the use of gold in medicine, but the allure of immortality never truly faded. In the modern era, Isabella's legend resurfaced in unexpected ways. Art historians uncovered portraits of the queen, noting the unnatural sheen of her skin and the haunted look in her eyes. Forensic experts reconstructed her face, revealing the subtle deformities caused by years of gold poisoning. Museums displayed her jewelry and personal effects, each piece a relic of her fatal vanity. Yet the most disturbing discovery came from a team of archaeologists who, while excavating the palace gardens, unearthed a small sealed vial. Inside was a thick golden liquid, untouched by time, still glimmering with the promise of forbidden youth. The vial found beneath the palace gardens became the center of a new storm. Scientists, historians, and the curious all clamored for a glimpse of the forbidden substance. Under strict supervision, The vial was transported to a state-of-the-art laboratory. There, behind layers of glass and security, a team of chemists carefully extracted a single drop. The liquid shimmered with an unnatural luster thicker than oil and seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Tests confirmed what the legends had long claimed: it was a suspension of pure gold mixed with unknown organic compounds. The recipe, lost for centuries, had survived in this single deadly relic. The discovery reignited old fears. News outlets reported on the Queen's curse, and conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed the vial was responsible for a string of mysterious deaths among the research team. Others whispered that the gold was haunted, carrying the restless spirit of Isabella herself. The truth was more disturbing. Within weeks, 2 scientists fell ill, exhibiting symptoms eerily similar to those described in the Queen's final days: fatigue, confusion, and a strange discoloration of the skin. The laboratory was shut down, and the vial was locked away in a vault, its secrets once again buried beneath layers of bureaucracy and fear. But the legend would not die. Across Europe, collectors and occultists sought to recreate the elixir, scouring ancient texts for clues. Some turned to the black market, where unscrupulous dealers sold counterfeit Isabella's gold to the desperate and the vain. Hospitals began to see a rise in cases of gold poisoning patients with failing organs, hallucinations, and a haunting metallic sheen to their eyes. The medical community issued urgent warnings, but the promise of eternal youth was too seductive. The cycle of obsession, suffering, and death continued, echoing the Queen's own tragic fate. In the shadows of academia, a new generation of scholars began to study Isabella's story, not as a cautionary tale, but as a window into the darkest corners of human desire. They traced the roots of her obsession to the ancient world, where rulers consumed mercury, arsenic, and other deadly substances in pursuit of immortality. They uncovered records of Roman emperors bathing in gold-infused waters, and of Renaissance nobles injecting themselves with precious metals. Each story was a variation on the same theme: the refusal to accept the limits of the human body and the terrible price paid for that defiance. Isabella's legacy became a mirror reflecting the fears and ambitions of every age. In the digital era, her image was resurrected in films, novels, and viral videos. Artists painted her as both victim and villain, a woman destroyed by her own beauty, and a queen who dared to challenge the natural order. Her story inspired cautionary tales about the dangers of vanity, the limits of science, and the seductive power of forbidden knowledge. Yet beneath the layers of myth and metaphor, the truth remained: the quest for eternal youth is a hunger that can never be satisfied. And so the queen who drank gold to stay young endures not as a figure of envy, but as a warning. Her bones, laced with the metal she loved, rest in a forgotten crypt. Her palace, haunted by whispers and shadows, stands as a monument to the folly of those who would trade their souls for a fleeting moment of perfection. In every age, there are those who will seek the elixir of life, convinced they can escape the fate that claimed Isabella. But history, relentless and unyielding, remembers her end: a beauty preserved in death, a soul lost to the darkness, and a legacy written in gold and misery.